So today I want to talk about the principles of indie filmmaking, because I think that it's always been kind of more, it's been more apparent in my head what it is that I want than it might be for people who haven't seen the same films I have or read the same books or whatever. And so people are always just like, where do you want me to stand? Does he have any idea where people stand in films? And I kind of do in my head, but I've never actually explained it. So basically, indie filmmaking, it just happens to be what I really love, but it's also something that we can do cheaply with non-actors, and so it's a great fit, I think. So I want to talk about what works well, low budget in terms of type of equipment used, style of direction, actors, location, story types, and delve into bits of history that I know of. Richard, you're welcome to jump in if you have any cool examples of stuff, because you probably know this better than I do. But the people I picked are director John Cassavetes, the Dogme95 movement, and then Mumblecore that follows. There's a kind of, do you think there's a thread there?
There's a thread there. I'm just going to ask you straight up,
Yeah.
before you get into it, Dogme95, your opinion? Just basic.
I love it.
Excellent. I'm going to shut the hell up.
You're welcome. No, but the thing is why I've chosen this is because I think all of these are very contentious topics, and I would love to know what you think of it. And I've got questions, I've got clips, and I've got questions for you about those clips.
All right.
And I figured out the volume on the TV.
Hey.
So the volume is good this time as well. Just these little improvements, it just gets better every time, you know? Yeah, that's it. That's all we're looking for. You know?
Oh my God.
We'll find out.
You'll get to it.
We'll get
Explaining it simply is difficult.
Yeah, you'll see examples.
Yeah.
But anyone heard of Cassavetes before? I know you have. You have as well?
When you started talking about it.
So 30 seconds of experience. You know Cassavetes?
Yeah.
You know Cassavetes, okay. I read this book, which anyone is welcome to borrow. It was like, it's actually really easy to read. It's like a compilation of different interviews with him, along with a guy who does a narrative thread of explaining how they made all the different films and what Cassavetes was after and how he managed his actors and everything. This is like, because this is pre-Me Too, you get to call him a genius, but you know, you certainly wouldn't know because he was like, slapping women and stuff. You know. Anyway, so yeah, he was an actor and an independent filmmaker. He made like 10 films, about 8 of which I think he was proud of, about 3 or 4 that I enjoy. It's pretty hit and miss, but they're very interesting. He wrote a novel, he wrote plays, he wrote screenplays, so I don't know where any of this stuff is. He apparently wrote like an 800-page novel and 440 unproduced screenplays. But the thing, I would argue that you can't make a Cassavetes film without him. It would be really pointless to take any of these screenplays and try and do them, which I think is a good definition of an auteur as well, is that you would need him to be there to make the types of films that he does. He was a pioneer of indie filmmaking, and you can still see his influence in contemporary works, and I'll quote some things that are on TV now, where people have directly quoted enjoying what he does. So his filmmaking style and his topics of interest, he liked just the lives and emotions of everyday people. He was very against sex and violence. He was always writing and rewriting his scripts, even like on the day and so on. He did what he called improvisation, but he had very tight scripts that he wanted people to follow, except he gave them little to no direction at all. When he meant improvisation, he meant actors were free to deliver the lines however the hell they wanted, and he really wanted them to. The types of, so he rarely gave detailed directions, often to the frustration of the people around him as well. I think his wife is in lots of his films, and she was just like, would you just tell me how to deliver these lines? But he's really, then he was like, use that frustration of me not telling you how to do this. Which is a pretty good cop-out, I think. I'm going to use that one. For actors, he mostly used non-actors. He also had friends and family in his films. He would act in them because he was an actor. His parents were in his films, as were his wife, Jenna Rollins, who's an excellent actress, and her parents were in it as well. He had a few trusted actors, Ben Gazzara, Peter Falk, who played Columbo, Seymour Castle. These were like his friends and guys that he put in almost all of his films. And the characters were often based on the actors playing them, which led to like naturalistic performances. In this book, he talks about actors and their characters interchangeably. So this is the scene where Peter comes in and he does blah, 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 because these characters were so based on the people playing them. which I think is great because then it's like, who has more experience being you? So who cares how much acting experience you have if you have so much you experience that you can use in the camera? So he used handheld cameras, he used telephoto lenses so that he could film from far away, he used like lavalier microphones, just like lapel mics, even if the sound quality wasn't as good, because he wanted actors to have the freedom to go wherever they wanted and he would follow them with the camera. With the telephoto lens, he could film from really far away and not bother them with the camera so that they could just do their thing uninterrupted. And he rarely used lights as well. And there's a sequence of scenes which were like exterior night scenes in one of his films, and people said like, what the hell are you doing? You're going to need lights. This is not going to show up on the celluloid. And he says, yeah, but the audience's eyes will adjust to the darkness if you don't put any light scenes in the middle of it. I don't know what he was thinking. So what he said were faces are the point most people don't know about composition. All the acting is in the actor's face. It's in their bodies. It's not necessarily in a perfect shot of what's behind them. His films were often self-funded, self-distributed, and he would act just to obtain money so he could make his films. And if he ever made profit, he would put them into the films. He famously boasted that he owed like $50,000 on his house when like early on, and then decades later he still owed $50,000 because he would just keep taking money out of the house to put into his films. He was like, what else would I do? So that's like bonkers, but you know, a sign that somebody really loves film, I suppose. I think maybe French New Wave was influential as well, but I don't really know anything about it. Do you have any opinions?
Which direction are you talking about?
Well, like Godard and what they were doing.
Well, I mean, there's, how to put this? The French New Wave certainly was using some of the same free-handed principle. They were the ones who pretty much told everyone you could break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Whether Cassavetes took it too far or not, that's the question for debate. But it was very much, he looked at them and thought, you know what, if they're allowed to do that, well, why can't I do this?
Yeah.
Pretty much that extension of, well, that person already jumped off the bridge, now why don't I do it with fake wings?
Cool. So one film of his that I really like is called Faces. It was the second film. His first one, Shadowed, came out in 1959, and he made it entirely with non-actors who showed up to his acting studio. He just put out an advert like, who wants to show up? And then he made a film with them. So Faces took 4 years to make. He printed 250,000 feet of 60mm films, which is 115 hours, which gives him a shooting ratio of 50 to 1, whereas the standard in Hollywood is 8 to 10 to 1. So you have like 10 hours of footage per 1 hour that shows up on the screen. Nuts. I don't, is that necessary? Who knows? So I want to show you a clip. This actress in the clip she'd never acted before, she was acting in this film. I want to know what you think of the relationship of these characters. Is it good, is it bad? What insights do you have?
His laugh, that is so tough to do on call.
Oh yeah, no.
Like, laughing is the hardest thing to do, just if someone asks you to do it.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, it's got to be an actor.
Yeah.
But it's still impressive how natural it looks.
But that's the thing, he can laugh on cue, she can't.
Okay.
But if you spend enough time with someone and you're recording enough footage of somebody having this conversation, then you end up in this ridiculous situation where you got this crazy man behind the camera pointing it at you, and you've been on there for 5 hours, and then finally someone tells the right joke,
Oh.
you break down.
It works though.
Yeah, I mean, it is an approach other people have used.
Cassavetes was under the table tickling her.
Yeah, exactly. This is kind of the thing.
Which, I mean, she knew that was happening. It's fine, but he had some unusual techniques, to say the least. Has anyone seen this film before?
Parts of it. I've never been able to do the entire thing in one go.
I love it. What do you think of the relationship? Is it good
Yeah.
between this
They
couple?
seem to obviously know each other pretty well.
Okay, no spoilers, but if you knew where this scene in the film takes place half an hour in, compared to what's happened before and what's after, you'd be very surprised at the turn of events in this film. People say that Cassavetes' films is like emotional jazz.
Yeah.
Like, all you're getting is a surface. You're not going to understand, nobody's ever going to go into like a monologue about how they feel. All you're getting is this to try and work out what's going on in these characters' heads. And they do often very surprising things. And so, even today, you would have any number of interpretations of what these characters are doing or what this film means. Cassavetes' actors often disagreed with his interpretation of what was happening in his films, and he often said he didn't really know why he was making his films as well. Okay, so that one was Faces. What else have I said? Oh, yes, okay, so then I'll just go on to another one. So Faces was 1968, Women Under the Influence in 1974, so there's 16 years between those films, and I think he made 3 films in between that. That's Minnie and Moskowitz, Husbands, maybe just 2. Anyway, between Faces and A Woman Under the Influence, like both of these films were well received at the time, mostly, and almost none of the others were. And he didn't do himself any favors as well. There's this one like big New York reviewer at a time when like film critics tell you what to go and see films, and he like stole her shoes at a party and threw them out the window and stuff because he didn't like her personally. So when it's just like, oh, you know, for your art you've got to like take out a mortgage on your house, it's like you could also be nice to people. that might help you. So yeah, this his first film in Faces were, I think some of the later ones were also appreciated, but mostly just only a handful were really appreciated in his time. So the topic of this film is really interesting. It's called A Woman Under the Influence. It's implied that she has some sort of psychological problem. It's never revealed what that problem is. It's never revealed whether or not she actually does. It's really up to you to decide whether or not she does. And it's all about the dynamic of how she lives in this house. It's quite a disturbing film overall, although the clip I'm going to show is really nice. But basically this is 2 characters, Mabel, played by Jenna Rollins, Cassavetes' wife, and her husband Nick, Peter Falk, the guy from Columbo. And so in this clip that I'm going to show, so my question is, how does she seem in this clip? What do we learn about her? What do we think of her from this? Since I've watched the whole film, I don't know how easy it is to tell this in isolation, but I'm going to just ask you. So anyway, in this clip, she's like the housewife, looks after the kids and everything, and her husband is a blue-collar worker. He's brought back like a whole bunch of his friends to the house, unannounced, I believe, and she makes them breakfast. So I'll just play you a clip of this.
So you would go through like hours of preparation to go for something like that?
Well, she and he are the only actors at the table.
Oh, she is an actor?
Yes,
I
yeah.
thought she
That's
was
his
an
wife.
actor. Oh, okay.
Though she's an amazing actor in her own right, I wanted to keep making sure that I say that, not just like, oh, she's the director's wife. Like, she's
Okay.
brilliant.
She is an actor?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
She is, and her husband's at the other end of the table, but everyone else is not. They're all non-actors. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on Mabel? Did you pick up, what do you think of her and her in this situation?
Well,
Situation. Yeah.
Tell me.
I think that there was certain class difference over there, and she was just trying to close that class difference, talking to them, and the toast she did also, she did it in a very simple way, did not want to be a very fancy way, and like, okay, just drink it. So, and she was putting lots of efforts to be nice, I could see that.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Yeah.
It's hard to say without the context, but then it seems that the husband in the scene, the husband came by surprise and said, you have to make breakfast now for these 8 people.
Pretty much.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's sort of looking for things to say. Like, they're all very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
She's very clearly not comfortable.
Being nice.
And it's like that thing where you're like that one person at the table and you're like, everyone else knows each other. You sort of like try to start a conversation, but they're just then hi and then bye kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
it looked like she was having some sort of a signed conversation with her husband. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. She's trying very desperately to please him, right? Yeah. And very little of what they're saying or doing really relates directly to that, right? It's a very subtle style, would you say? Does it seem unusual compared to other films you've seen?
Yeah, pretty unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Weird breakfast, with weird people that she doesn't know.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. It's almost like a documentary in style, isn't it? I think one thing, I find most of his films too long. He has kind of an obsession with realism. But it's so difficult that if you don't have a direct plot in every line, to know how long scenes are supposed to run on for, especially if like the point is that they are kind of discontinuous or so on. So.
Have you seen Roma?
No.
Fellini.
Yeah.
Which one? The Quaron?
The
Yeah.
Netflix
Yeah,
version.
that's Quaron, not Fellini.
Like it's kind. I don't know. It's sort of same kind of documentary on life vibe. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And if you want something of a similar nature that's a little bit more cohesive and coherent in terms of modern filmmaking, check out Altman in the 70s, that kind of area where Robert Altman. So you've got a few other films there. 70s Pieces with Nicholson is good. Original Easy Rider, directed by Dennis Hopper. That kind of 70s new wave Hollywood, that kind of, I wouldn't call it indie, but it's certainly the new filmmaker renaissance that they had in the 70s. Similar kind of feel, but closer to what we would recognize as traditional film. The thing you'll notice about that one is, of course, there is no instance of soundtrack. There is no music. They don't have any kind of cohesive underlay that's supposed to telling you how you're supposed to feel.
Good point. Yeah. It must have made American cinema goers really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few elements there to make American cinema goers uncomfortable.
It's a very uncomfortable film, but I think it's brilliant. I think you did pick up mostly on what's going on, even out of context. But again, if you know what happens before and after that scene, and you try and put what's happening there into context, it becomes very, very complex. I think that, like I say, it's called A Woman Under the Influence. It's implied that she has some psychological condition that's never mentioned. It's never mentioned if she does or doesn't. I can't work it out.
She does look kind of spaced.
Yeah.
Performing
She's
it.
very, I mean, like when she's just like, hi, how are you? It's like it's
Yeah.
robotic, deeply uncomfortable.
Here's my question for you. How much of that is informed by the title? Are you looking for it?
I did not feel it because I did not think about the title.
Good point.
Because her
good point.
performance isn't actually giving you very much at all.
Hmm.
It's not a non-performance, but it's a very open performance. There is no conveyance.
She is sort of like spaced in the sense that she's sort of like looking at someone like this, trying to grab their attention, and sort of like that's all she's doing.
Yeah, was she
Correct, but
blinking?
that is all she's doing.
Was she
She's
blinking?
blinking.
So
I
if you're
don't know.
looking for something, it's very easy to put it there.
I guess the title does make you think, oh,
Because I don't think she was actually
Yeah.
blinking at all, and then when someone is looking at you without blinking, it gets a
Yeah,
bit,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I have to say about Cassavetes. If you want to borrow this book, you're welcome to. It's huge, but it's not very difficult to read, and it's quite interesting. He was an interesting character, and it goes more in depth into how he made these films and why. Again, I mean, there's so many different cinema movements. I've only picked out a few that I know of that have been like of influence in the terms of what I'm trying to do. So Dogme95, I guess, was kind of invented in the late 90s by two Danish filmmakers, Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg. Any fans of either?
I think, didn't he do Nymphomania?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And Thomas Vinterberg did that film The Hunt with Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah. Vinterberg has some good films. I'm not a Von Trier fan.
You're not a Von Trier fan?
I think Von Trier has his moments of insight and specifically cinematography and beauty. I will never forgive him for Dogville. I just can't.
You didn't like it?
I hate that movie with passion.
I remember thinking it was pretty good at 15, but I have the problem of like recommending things that I saw in my teens to people without revisiting them. So
I watched it again last year, and it remains my worst cinema going experience.
Wow. Passionate dislike
Is it
for
rare
Von
to see
Trier.
this one?
Oh,
Yeah,
God,
that makes me want to watch it.
Oh no, I would recommend it for the experience, but I mean,
Yeah, which movie?
Dogville.
Dogville.
Dogville. Yeah.
Here's the thing I will tell you about Dogville, and I will recommend Dogville to anybody who's interested in getting into film. Because for me, it provided a perfect negative template. Here is everything I don't want to do on a film. Not a joke. I've used it as that example. I've used it in teaching, and it works. Because if you either look at Dogville and you completely get on board with it, or you can't get on board with it at all.
Okay.
It's that kind of movie because it's doing something so entirely its own.
Basically, it takes place on an enormous stage with chalkboard outlines of houses.
Correct.
And that's the village. And so people go and they go like that, and then you hear a door knocking sound, and then they go opening doors to see each other. And so while things are happening, sometimes some people are like cleaning their floor in the background in their other house. I think it's really cool.
It's
I think
a giant black box
cool.
theater experiment.
I think it's incredible. And he did that in another film as well after that. Manderley, I think it's called.
Oh, I haven't watched
I've not seen it.
I know of it, but
yeah.
It's on stage, so it's not film.
It's just a giant warehouse space that he blacked out. So it's on film.
It's like a
It's not
stage.
staged.
Yeah.
It is
So it's like a stage.
on camera. But it's just a black box theater experiment that lasts near 3 hours,
Yeah.
2.5,
Yeah.
3 hours.
Wow.
I think
And
it's let's watch it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all recorded on handheld 2002 digital cameras.
Love
So it has
those.
a very grainy look to it.
Mm.
Yeah, cool.
And I think we can all agree it becomes deeply uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, of course. See, everything I'm after, grainy, handheld, deeply uncomfortable. See, I'm totally on board with that. Yeah.
I'm the complete opposite of that.
See, it's very. I think every director I've mentioned is going to be quite contentious. But yeah, Lars von Trier. I mean, like, I'm sort of on board, sort of not. The Idiots was the first film he did in this Dogme95 style. I think it's brilliant. I think it's one of my favorite films of his. I also kind of like watching Dancer in the Dark the first time, but I'm never going to recommend
I can
it
get on
to
board
anyone.
for Idiot's alright, Dancer in the Dark. It's
Breaking the Waves, I can't stand though.
there you go.
Yeah, it's just he has this incredibly like pessimistic view of life where it's like, what are you trying to make me do? Feel sad? Like, I don't know. Please do explore his films. I also really liked Julian Donkey Boy by Harmony Korine. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, no, I like Harmony Korine alright.
I love Harmony Korine, yeah.
Yeah.
And he does a very Cassavetes style thing. I watched some clips from that film recently, and I think he mentions Cassavetes is one of the few directors that he liked. These were some of the first mainstreams to be shot entirely on digital camera. Remind me the type of camera that you have?
Sony PD150.
PD150, yeah, exactly that camera.
I told you there was the most cameras used for porn.
Apparently a lot of porn made with it as well, yeah. There's a lot of Cassavetes influenced pornographers, maybe, in the early 2000s. I think they just loved these indie filmmaking principles. These are the rules. Let me see if I should go through them. It's very similar to what Cassavetes was doing, but they wrote a little manifesto and they would give people certificates, and it's kind of pretentious.
Just a little.
Yeah. So shooting has to be done on location. You can't bring in props or sets. If you do need to bring in a prop, a location must be chosen where the prop is to be found. The sound must never be produced apart from the images or vice versa, so you can't put a musical overlay onto it unless the music was playing in the room at the time. Because
Only diegetic sound.
that's what they call it, yeah. Camera must be handheld. Any movement or immobility attainable in the hand is permitted. The film must be in colour, special lighting not acceptable. Optical work and filters are forbidden. Film must not contain any superficial action, murders, weapons, etc. So again, Cassavetes was against sex and violence. I see similar.
I think that last one they were going to have that.
I mean, they broke them.
broke that one.
They all broke them.
Yeah.
Like, none of them followed all these rules. in
that
any
one
of the
there
films.
specifically, though.
Yeah, I mean, The Idiots is filled with sex. But so let me see what else. Temporal and geographical alienation are forbidden. So the film has to take place in the here and now. Can't do like a period piece or whatever. Genre movies not acceptable. Academy 35mm format. Director must not be credited. Just stupid because they just were. And yeah, so they handed out certificates for a while and then here you go. It was this kind of camera.
I work with those.
Oh, I've moved on. Yes, so I didn't have any clips from.
A lot of other things, but yes.
Yeah.
I keep referring to it as that sounds more like experience, but we'll not question too deeply.
Oh, I reached maximum recording time. Half an hour I can get on that massive thing, but oh well.
Is that in 4K?
Yes.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah,
It was good to learn.
Yeah, 1080p better
This is
to get
still
that
going.
for you.
True. But I've never recorded anything in 4K, so I wanted to see what it does. So yeah, I didn't have any clips of the Dogma ones because, I can't show any of them to anyone. They're all bonkers. But yeah, Festen was the one by Thomas Vinterberg. and The Idiots was the first one by Lars von Trier. They're both great films, I think. So then I've gone into Mumblecore, which started in like the early 2000s. The key directors, Duplass brothers, Lynn Shelton, Andrew Buchalski, Joe Swanberg, Barry Jenkins, who later went on to make Moonlight, but he started as a Mumblecore filmmaker. Again, naturalistic acting and dialogue, sometimes improvised, low-budget film production, mostly cameras, digital cameras of the era like this one, BD150, Panasonic models as well. Emphasis on dialogue over plot, so similar to these Cassavetes clips you've seen as well. Focused on the personal relationships of people in their 20s and 30s, sometimes called slackavetes. Colloquially. So I really like this film, even though it's like, well, you'll see what it's like. But
It's interesting times.
Hanatic Sisters, yeah. It's not really explained, but I think you can come up with your own explanation for it. So this was made by a group of friends who rented an apartment in Chicago for a month. Takes place in Chicago because that's where the director's from, and he still lives there now. He has like Netflix series and stuff that are all set in Chicago. He's never going to live anywhere else. It cost $60,000 to make. I would love to see a single one of those dollars on screen. It looks really bad. So I've got a clip to show you. I want to know what's going on in this clip. If there's no script, what directions do you think we're given? Because this film is basically entirely improvised, so I think each actor is probably given a thing that has to happen in the scene. But anything they're saying is just what they're inventing. And then I'm going to ask if you recognize any of these people.
He looks at the camera. He definitely looks at the
Yeah.
camera.
Oh, did he?
As in, what was it? First 10 seconds.
Yeah.
He was like, he broke the fourth wall. I was like,
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah, a little bit of a
Oh, I
check
like
to make
that.
sure that probably the red light was on.
I like that as well. It's sort of like the style of the film, sort of whatever kind of thing. That's cool.
I really like it because, like I say, this is a group of friends, and what they're capturing is the chemistry that they have together. It's not built artificially, and if it's characters based on them, which I believe it is, they just get to be themselves on the screen doing their thing. I think it's a great shorthand for getting good performances out of people that don't have good experience. And if I'm going to, make films with people who are here, that's exactly what I'm after. Yeah.
The one thing I will say about that, you're talking about where you don't see the technique or the money. When you're watching it and you're kind of just getting involved in that conversation and such, is there anything that drew you out of it? Just ask a question. Because the editing is actually really good. They're editing exactly like they're supposed to in a major film. They're following a line of sight. They're following motion points. They're lining up points on screen when they do the cuts, so you don't notice the editing. Which means that even though it is low budget and crappy and kind of weirdly naturalistic, the editing is taking a lot of that naturalistic impetus away.
And you mean that's what makes you not lose attention?
Yeah, because you're following that conversation and the film isn't drawing attention to itself. Bad editing, you notice instantly. It's one of those things because, they also did J cuts, so which means that you're hearing the sound from the previous cut for the 2 seconds after the edit. It's another thing that makes you not notice the editing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I found the camera movement sometimes a bit.
Yeah.
I thought
And
like it's so hard, like especially as a group of friends, if you're being filmed, to just do what you normally do.
Yeah.
Like I know I could tell the girl at one point she was sort of like when she said bye, it sort of looked like she was not sure what to do because she was on camera or something. But it is so hard to do.
Yeah. I think she's just a very super awkward character,
Yeah.
and she doesn't. What do you
Obviously
think?
it's out of context.
Yeah, of course. What do you think? So obviously she's with her boyfriend and she works with these 2 guys sitting down. So what do you think about her relationship to these people? She's Hannah.
She's quite into the guy that she's living with. He's obviously the main one.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's her boyfriend, but do
That's
you
her
think
boyfriend.
she's into him?
Yeah.
I think she feels awkward mixing those 2 groups.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So classic.
Yeah.
It's like when you invite
It's the people you work
two
with.
different groups who are
It's the
friends
people
in
you're
the
social
class.
with.
Yeah.
That boundary got broken and not against her, not by her choice.
Yeah.
There's that moment when the guy says, "Oh, you're welcome to the party." You can see her just going, "I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The hell did you say?"
Yeah.
There's a real moment there of just like, no.
That was good. Like,
Yeah,
you got
no.
that feeling. Like, I like that.
Yeah. So I really like this style, and I think this is kind of like you say, these are professionals who they know how to make film and everything, and they are actors and so on. But this is doable, and I love this style as well. I mean, all these things that I'm showing are things that really draw me in as a viewer more than anything else.
What was the anecdote thing? I didn't get that.
Oh, it gets interrupted. I don't understand it either.
Okay.
He was in Tiananmen Square and handing out leaflets or something. I don't know. But so. What do you think had to happen in that scene? What were these actors told has to happen?
They were just to behave like it was like a normal day for them, discussing stories, having fun, and then this guy has to come and create some kind of situation and create some plan with her, and she has to leave with him. But I don't know about the situation you mentioned.
Exactly. No, this is exactly what I was asking. Yeah. So basically, say like you just tell me that story you told Duz yesterday in the pub. Probably say, and then you just react as you would, and then he's going to come along and call you when you get the call. Just don't answer it. You're disappointed she doesn't answer the call. You're going to come in and invite her to lunch, and they will invite you to the party. Hannah, you don't like this,
His coming in at the time he did wasn't planned, because you can see him in the background in one of the first shots of her.
Right.
He gets off that elevator a good 35 seconds before he walks into that room.
Okay.
So you actually are watching him kind of dawdle walks out of the door and dawdle in the background while she's checking her phone. He's just back there.
Yeah, he's standing.
Yeah, he's standing in the back, kind of like waiting for an opportunity. So I don't think there was given a plan for him when he was supposed to show up. He was supposed to take a moment.
So that they were naturally interrupted.
Yeah, exactly.
That's better.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of Stanislavski.
Yeah, pretty much.
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So.
But okay, I have a question.
Go for it.
Because, I have no knowledge about filmmaking. This is a proper movie, right? It's just there's a story and everything, and they are actors.
Yes. Yeah.
And this just the style of filmmaking. This is what is different. In
Yes.
this case.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it has a plot. This film.
It has a
Yeah.
plot.
It's just that the setups and everything, like I say, it would just be these basic instructions, but there are no scripted words. Yeah.
Just my own knowledge here, which is that if you're talking about the whole idea of an improvised performance, has anyone seen the series Broadchurch?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's an improvised show. Every performance in it is an improvisation. So what happens is that certain actors in certain scenes are given what they're called impetus, which means that an actor is set up in a scene unknowing of what's about to happen, and a character comes in and gives them a piece of information. That is the first time that actor is hearing this information. Only one of them knows this part of the story. So at any given scene, most of the people involved don't know what's going to happen in terms of the plot
They
progression.
still know what their character is. It's not like they just.
They know who their character is because it's a set show.
Yeah.
So they know their character, they're in character, but only one part of the cast at that moment actually knows the lines that are going to be delivered. And those lines aren't specific. They're given information that they need to convey.
And there's the reaction.
It's the reaction, it's how it's chosen to be given. So if someone walks into the scene, David Tennant will walk into a scene knowing that they found the body. He doesn't know how to say it. He hasn't been given a script. We found a body. Olivia Colman doesn't know there's a body yet.
Oh,
And when you
said that there was the
and when you film it out of sequence, you don't know what's going to happen because you're not filming it directly.
I mean, they have to be quite good actors, so like.
They are very good.
They are very good.
Oh yeah,
actors.
it's a thing. Olivia Colman is. If you've seen The Favorite,
Yeah.
I mean,
David Tennant.
David Tennant and Olivia Colman, they're all great. But it's kind of like, yeah, you need to be that good, but that's when you can have opportunities to do stuff like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Like that is tough to do.
Oh, completely.
Yeah. But I never knew that.
Yeah, no.
Like I watched that whole series not knowing that that's how they
Yeah,
filmed
it's an improvised show.
That makes it seem even more incredible than
Yeah.
what. That's amazing.
Broadchurch. Yeah, it's a British
It's
one.
well worth watching.
Yeah, it's a good show. Great show.
Yeah. Did you recognize any of the people in this film?
Great show,
I know
great
you
show,
have.
of course.
Everybody, yeah.
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 She went on to do quite a lot, but the others, I think Mark Duplass sounds familiar. Is he?
Yeah.
One of the brothers, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Greta Gerwig just directed Little Women,
Oh,
and she directed Lady Bird before that.
Yes.
This was, I think, a very good film. This was maybe her. So this film premiered at the South by Southwest Festival, and then I think a few years later she was being cast in all kinds of very big things. But this was like a big break for her, I think. Mark Duplass was the guy in the red T-shirt. He and his brother Jay have their own production company. They were making films like this as well. They were Mumblecore people as well. So he has his own production company. They make TV shows for HBO and all this kind of stuff. Ken Osborne was the guy telling the story about China. Is an animator for Adventure Time. And Andrew Bujalski was the guy with the glasses. He also similarly makes very high budget films now, I think. But this is how they started. They picked up a hand camera, found their friends, wrote some stuff about their friends, and then filmed it in locations they had access to.
Next step then.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. All I'm saying is that I think that, like, I've shown stuff here that I've made on my iPhone, and I think people are just like, does this guy genuinely think this is what you're supposed to do? Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I think there's a rich history, yeah.
You're learning on the job. That's literally
Absolutely.
what it is.
But there's a rich history of people doing exactly the same thing. From, I mean, you know, these are just a few examples of people that I picked out who were doing it. So what else do I have to say here?
They never do retakes in these things, is that?
Yeah, they would. Yeah.
They would,
Mm-hmm.
but then the improvisation is not there, right?
Well, let's say you're doing a retake and suddenly the guy walks in at a different part of the story. Or he's telling a different story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And you just choose which one you like best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's probably a good way of filming for like this kind of group.
Exactly, yeah. So I've had this in my head, but I've never actually showed these things to people and gone, this is what has influenced me to pick up the equipment that I have, use the people who show up, and make something of pretty decent quality. You
And
know?
then the difficulty is when you have someone walking in and say something really random, you've got to try and react seriously to it.
I mean,
And then you come out just laughing.
the one thing I will say about these guys is, I don't know a lot about Mumblecore, but I'm going to make an assumption based on what I saw there.
Mm-hmm.
They had one resource in abundance, time. Which means that you can actually put together enough footage that you can do proper editing.
Yeah,
Because
this
you're
was
not storyboarding,
worth.
you're not planning scene for scene. So you're not going to be able to set up your shots in such a way that you can edit neatly between them. So if you're going to do all that stuff about eyeline, directionality, all that stuff, you're just going to have a huge pool of footage to draw from to find the thing that worked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
Yeah.
because
that doesn't take money.
can't plan it.
Yeah, that doesn't take money, it takes time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good point.
So basically these actors, they spent hours repeating the same thing and then it was recorded from
We're
different
talking about
points.
different things.
Mm-hmm.
Just lots and lots and lots of footage of people talking and things happening.
So there's probably about 9 different films in it.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Again, I don't know a lot about it, but looking at what they were doing there and knowing a little bit about other types of indie filmmaking,
Yeah.
that would be my assumption.
They're using 2 of these hand cams to film
Yeah.
this, right? Yeah.
But the sound was not clear.
No.
Yeah, so-
Directionality of the mic.
Yeah.
There's no boom operator involved there.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, maybe the mic is too far away. Like I say, I mean, you would probably use little lapel mics. They probably should have. I don't know if they did.
No.
But again, like you're not. No.
Not for them, no. That was a mic. That was the mic mounted on top of the camera because you can hear it change when the camera moves.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of Doppler every time someone's talking and then the camera turns away from them and changes the pitch they're speaking at. Just a
Okay.
little bit.
Interesting. But again, I mean, I think that at least when I started this, because I'm still relatively new to filmmaking, I was like, God, this has to be really, really, really good for people to take me seriously. But it actually just has to be the best I can do with what I have. That's all I would ask of anyone here as well. I mean, literally every director must be doing that. It's just that some of them are way better because they've been doing it longer. But you know, show up and do your best, and it's fun. That's what I want. So I say I was inspired more by the philosophy and attitude of these people than anything. Here's a quote from Cassavetes: "Say what you are, not what you would like to be. Not what you have to be, just say what you are, and what you are is good enough." I don't know who Arthur Ashe is, but this is a good quote. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Mark Duplass, who was in that film, who made his own film, says emotional intensity is free. And that's what the people are arguing, is that that's the most that's why you go to see films anyway. So the most important part is free. And I say there are many instances of directors casting friends and family making low-budget films. Joe Swanberg was the director of that, who did it in Chicago, and did it in Chicago many times after that. Richard Linklater in Texas, Kevin Smith in New Jersey, using whatever readily available equipment they had. Digital cameras in the early 2000s. It would have been film in like the 90s mostly. Cameras like this one now. So you don't necessarily need to go anywhere or meet anyone, even less so now. The real Stavanger Film Club was the friends we made along the way. Sometimes I write this stuff and then I deliberately forget I'm going to have to say it in front of people later, so that I do say it in front of people later.
Yeah.
But like I say, I mean, like Sam's been in some of the films and stuff, and I think we both enjoy the outtakes more than anything.
Yeah, definitely. Outtakes. Just
Yeah.
so fun to watch.
Just the fact that, like I say, the fact that if we didn't show up to film something, we wouldn't have laughed like that, is the biggest win of the whole thing. The fact that you get film out of it afterwards is just fun. But then you look at what Cassavetes did his whole life. I mean, he was in Rosemary's Baby, he was in like a TV series, he was in big stuff, and he was getting lots of money, and he preferred to do that with people that were his friends and family, and put those people in his film. So I think that the most meaningful thing you can do as a filmmaker is that as well. You don't need to go anywhere for that. Like, you have arrived. The reason I make that point is because like I write fiction and I'm a published author, and I've heard more than one person say to me like, "Oh, Leo, do you know I would like to start writing fiction?" And what do I say to them? Fantastic, great. Do you need some help? Why would I not say that? I love writing fiction and I know how much it adds to my life. And then more than one person who's gone, "Oh, I was just kidding. I just wanted to see how you reacted," as if like they thought that it would somehow diminish the fact that I write by the fact that they also want to write. Like, I mean, it says more about that person than it does about me, you know? But at the same time, when people are just like, "Oh, so you're making films in Stavanger, where the hell is Stavanger? It's hardly Hollywood." And you're like, exactly, no one is filming here. And
Yeah, that's a point.
yeah,
Yeah,
no one is filming here. And people around the world have loved filming where they are from, with the people around them, more than anything else that they could have gotten from the experience. So, great, we have arrived, we're here. The whole point of the club was that you arrived tonight. Congratulations, you made it, you know?
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go, there's nothing else to do but our very best, and, you know, make it a little bit better each time. So, and then that's why I'm using these historical examples to say that people throughout time and history have done this and loved it. And that's what I want, and I love the style of what they're done as well. So this is like my goal, more or less. So here's some more things you can watch. You can watch Cassavetes films. You can watch those Dogme95 films. You can watch some Mumblecore films.
on Facebook.
Yes, exactly. I'll give you the list of this later. Have you seen Lena Dunham's first film, Tiny Furniture?
No.
So it premiered at South by Southwest. She used the Canon 9D. So it was like, and this was like 10 years ago, so it's not as good quality as this. And it premiered at South by Southwest, and then she went on to make Girls, the HBO series, is now like a multi-millionaire because she made a film with her camera and her friends that premiered at South by Southwest. In the 90s, Sundance received 900 submissions a year. In 2020, they received 15,000. So everyone has caught on to the fact that this technology is cheap now. I've beaten odds like that as a writer, so, you know, never say never. But but also never.
As a small input there, you know, you're talking about no one does any filming in Stavanger. I know one of the guys who picks the short film selection for the Tribeca Film Festival.
Wow.
And the one thing he's told me is if you're submitting something, you're actually in way better odds submitting from somewhere they don't get a lot of applications, because they want to have a diverse roster and they want to be able to show on programming they have a diverse roster.
Absolutely.
So they don't want to have 500 submissions from New York and then 6,000 submissions from LA and that's all they're going to show. They want to pick things from all over the world. So you're actually better off producing something locally in a place that doesn't have a lot of output, because that actually plays in your favor with most major short film festivals.
Absolutely. Well, when I say nobody's filming in Stavanger, I'm talking about people who are ignorant of the whole thing, the whole system. And also just, I just find it very interesting that, you know, it's people in Stavanger saying that to me, but like, oh, you know, to make it, you would have to move somewhere else and make money and be famous and stuff. And I'm like,
That's not
But-
what it's about.
Well, it's not what it's about, but also you live in Stavanger, like, are you okay? You know? Do you feel you need to escape the city that you live in?
You're in Norway.
Yeah. But, I don't know, it's just,
It's a very Norwegian attitude.
yeah, maybe, I don't know, it just, I don't know, it strikes me as odd, but it's not what I'm about. So, Tiny Furniture, Lena Dunham's first film, the first time I saw it, I was like, ew, Lena Dunham. I watched it again, I loved it actually, the composition is really great, it's really strong. It's this naturalistic performance style. She stars in it, as does her mum and sister. It's filmed in the mum's apartment. She got like her best friend to be in it, who was later. She got a best friend to be in it as a favor. I can't remember her name, but she went on to be in Girls with Lena Dunham and is also similarly very rich, just because she was in that film as a favor. Pi, Darren Aronofsky's first film. Primer, Shane Carruth, often quoted. I don't like it. You see
Really?
it?
Oh my
I
god.
can't stand his films.
I
I can't
love
stand
them.
them. Shane Carruth, his name is. He's made 2
Yeah.
films so far.
Yeah, he's done Primer and he's done
Upstream Color.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand either of them. But he's
This
often
is going to
quoted
be
as-
interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad
we're
you're
very
here.
different. How do you feel about Following?
I've not seen it yet. That's on my
Ooh,
list.
get
Yes,
onto it.
it's on my list. Yeah.
You
I
might
love-
not like it.
Okay. I love Slacker. Have you seen Slacker
No,
by Richard Linklater? I love it.
I'm not a Linklater guy.
This is our film right here.
Yeah, we're gonna have some.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna throw one in there just for fun.
Yeah.
Dark Star, which is the original film by John Carpenter. It
Okay.
is pretty much, it was made with chutzpah and nothing much else because it's a college film, but it's feature length. He made this with universities buddies using university equipment in 1974.
Cool.
Well,
And that's John Carpenter, who has become just a legend of the cult cinema scene. And it's just, it is, and the thing for Dark Star, and the reason I'm mentioning it is the difference between what he did there, and all these are doing, he went the opposite way. He tried to make a sci-fi movie set on a spaceship with no money and college friends to act. He went full on the other way and tried to do something way out of his league and made it work as a comedy.
Wow.
The fact that it looks so terrible works in its favor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
it's so bad that it's funny.
No, it's actually good, but it embraces the fact that it has no money.
Okay.
It's like, you know what, this is gonna look crap, let's make it entertaining crap.
So there's this series I like called Better Things on FX. Have you seen it?
A little bit of it.
What's her name? That woman, Pamela Adlon.
Yeah.
So it's about her life and it's about her kids. She's got like actors in there as acting as her kids, but she instructed the cast and crew to watch Cassavetes films to, demonstrate the style that she wanted from them. There's this YouTube channel called D4 Darius. The guy was a film student in Arizona. He made a feature film using a DSLR camera like this, and then he made a documentary about submitting it to film festivals. It never really got anywhere major, and he's like went into debt for it. But it's interesting about the reality of being filmmakers. I think that's the truth for a lot of people. So it's interesting to watch just to see if after watching that it's still something you feel like doing, And then, yes, so I'd seen this before. I went up to the library. I haven't seen this Cassavetes film, Gloria, so I'm going to watch that one. I got Jim Jarmusch's first film.
Yes.
Not seen it.
Ah,
Okay,
love
that's great. Strangers on a Train, Hitchcock, not seen it.
Yes.
Phantom of the Paradise, De Palma. You like De Palma,
Perhaps
sisters?
foreign films, I need
I like
to
De
see.
Palma, but I also do so knowingly. I mean, De Palma is one of those guys where you're like, I'm enjoying this. He's a weird dude.
Agreed, yes. So anyway, I got 4, but basically they have like an auteur section, and then I went through it, and like they have like a Cassavetes section, but they also have like a Kubrick, Kurosawa, Lynch, blah 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 blah. So what I just did, you could do for like this many weeks if you want to go there, take an armful of Kubrick, and then come in here and tell us about Kubrick.
I could do that right now.
Okay, exactly. Yeah.
I've completed.
Welcome to your
I've
welcome to
completed
your
a
film.
lot of this already.
Okay. Well, great. You're welcome to. But I mean, also, I think it helps if somebody who's never watched a David
go
Lynch
for it.
film does that.
Yeah.
And you present your learnings and
Yes,
what you
please,
think
man.
about it. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And then what else?
Want a real trick? Check out Herzog.